Right. Hi everyone, welcome back to this video series on Windows Server 2019, importing objects from a file. In exercise 5.5, you created an account using the Active Directory Users and Computers tool. But what if you need to bulk import accounts? There are two main applications for doing bulk imports of accounts, the LDIFDE.exe utility and the CSV de.exe utility. Both utilities import accounts from files. The LDIFDE utility imports from lined delimited files. This utility allows an administrator to export and import data, thus allowing batch operations such as add, modify, and delete to be performed in Active Directory. Windows Server 2012 R2 includes the LDIFDE.exe to help support batch operations. The CSV.de.exe utility performs the same export functions as LDIFDE.exe, but CSV.de.exe uses a comma separated value file format. The CSV.de.exe utility does not allow administrators to modify or delete objects. It only supports adding objects to Active Directory migration tool. Another tool that administrators have used in the past is Active Directory migration tool, ADMT. ADMT allows an administrator to migrate users, groups, and computers from a previous version of a server to a current version of the server. Administrators also use the ADMT to migrate users, group, and computers between Active Directory domains in different forests, intra-forest migration, and between Active Directory domains in the same forest, intra-forest migration. At the time this book was written, Microsoft had not yet released a new version of ADMT that is supported by Windows Server 2012 R2. The reason I even mentioned it in this book is because Microsoft may be releasing a version of it soon, and I wanted you to understand what it can do. Continue to check the Microsoft website to see whether a new version has been released. Offline domain join of a computer. Offline domain join gives administrators the ability of pre-provision computer accounts in the domain to prepare operating systems for deployments. At startup, computers can then join the domain without the need to contact a domain controller. This helps reduce the time it takes to deploy computers in a data center. Let's say your data center needs to have multiple virtual machines deployed. This is where offline domain join can be useful. Upon initial startup, after the operating system is installed, offline domain join allows the virtual machines to join the domain automatically. No additional steps or restarts are needed. The following are some of the benefits of using offline domain join. There is no additional network traffic for Active Directory state changes. There is no additional network traffic for computer state changes to the domain controller. Changes for both the Active Directory state and the computer state can be completed at different times. Managing object properties. Once you've created the necessary Active Directory objects, you'll probably need to make changes to their default properties in addition to the settings you made when you were creating Active Directory objects. You can configure several more properties. You can also access object properties by right-clicking any object and selecting properties from the pop-up menu. Each object type contains a unique set of properties. User object properties. The following list describes some of the properties of a user object. General, account information about this user, address, physical location information about this user, account, user logon name, and other account restrictions such as workstation restrictions and logon hours. Profile, information about the user's roaming profile settings, telephone, contact information for the user, organization, the user's title, department, and company information, member of group membership information for the user, dial in, remote access service, RES permissions for the user, environment, log on and other network settings for the user, session limits including maximum session time and idle session settings, remote control options for this user session, remote desktop services, profile information about the user's profile for use with remote desktop services. Okay. Personal virtual desktop allows you to assign a user a specific virtual machine to use as a personal virtual desktop. Computer object properties. Computer objects have different properties than user objects. Computer objects refer to the system that clients are operating to be part of a domain. The following list describes some computer object properties. General. Information about the name of the computer, the role of the computer and its description, operating system, the name, version, and service pack information for the operating system running the role of its computer, its description. Okay, operating system, the name, version, and service pack information for the operating system running on the computer. Member of Active Directory groups of which this computer object is a member. Delegation allows you to set services that work on behalf of another user. Location, a description of the computer's physical location managed by information about the user or contact object that is responsible for managing this computer. Dial-in sets dial-in options for the computer, setting properties for Active Directory objects. Now that you have seen the various properties that can be set for the Active Directory objects, let's complete an exercise on how to configure some of these properties. Exercise 5.7 walks you through how to set various properties for Active Directory objects. To complete the steps in this exercise, first, you must have completed exercise 5.5, exercise 5.7. Managing object properties. 1. Click the window key on the keyboard and choose Administrative Tools. 2. Open the Active Directory Users and Computers tool. 3. Expand the name of the domain and select the RD container. Right-click the John Q. Adams user account and select Properties. 4. Here you will see the various Properties tab for the user account. Make some configuration changes based on your personal preferences and click on OK. 5. Select HROU, right-click all user group and click Properties. In the All Users Properties dialog box, you will be able to modify the membership of the group. Click the Members tab and then click Add. Add the Maria D. President and the John Q. Admin user accounts to the group. Click OK, save settings, and then OK to accept group modifications. 6. Select the Sales OU, right-click the Workstation 1 computer object. Notice that you can choose to disable the account or reset it. To allow another computer to join the domain under the same name, from the context menu, choose Properties. You'll see the properties for the computer object. 7. Select the corporate OU, right-click the Maria D. President user account, choose Reset Password. You will be prompted to enter a new password and then you'll be asked to confirm it. Note that you can also force the user to change this password upon the next login, and you can also unlock the user's account from here. For this exercise, do not enter a new password, just click cancel. 8. Close the Active Directory users and computers tool. Understanding groups. Now that you know how to create user accounts, it's time to learn how to create group accounts. This is something every organization should be using to illustrate their usefulness. Let's say you have a sales department user by the name of W. Panic. Your organization has 100 resources shared on the network for users to access. Because Panic is part of the sales department, he has access to 50 of the resources. The marketing department uses the other 50. If the organization is not using groups and W Panic moves from sales to marketing, how many changes do you have to make? The answer is 100. You have to move him out of the 50 resources he currently can use and place his account into 50 new resources that he now needs. Let's say that you use groups. The sales group has access to 50 resources and the marketing group has access to the other 50. If Panic moves from sales to marketing, you need to make only 2 changes. You have to take W Panic out of the sales group and place him in the marketing group. Once this is done, W Panic can access everything he needs to do his job. Group properties. Now that you understand why you should use groups, let's go over setting up groups and their properties. When you are creating groups, it helps to understand some of the options that you need to use group type. You can choose from 2 group types: security groups and distribution groups. Security groups, these groups have rights and permissions placed on them. For example, if you want to give a certain group of users access to a particular printer, but you want to control what they are allowed to do with this printer, you'd create a security group and then apply certain rights and permissions to this group. Distribution groups. These groups are used for email only as long as they have an email system that allows for mail-enabled groups like Exchange. You cannot place permissions and rights for objects on this group type. Group scope. When it comes to group scopes, you have 3 choices. Domain local groups are groups that remain in the domain in which they were created. You use these groups to grant permissions within a single domain. For example, if you create a domain local group named HP Laser, you cannot use that group in any other domain, and it has to reside in the domain in which you created it. Global groups can contain other groups and accounts from the domain in which the group is created. In addition, you can give them permissions in any domain in the forest. Universal groups can include other groups and accounts from any domain in the domain tree or forest. You can give universal groups permissions in any domain in the domain tree or forest. Creating group strategies. When you are creating a group strategy, think of this acronym that Microsoft likes to use in the exam, AGDLP or AGLP. This acronym stands for a series of actions you need to perform. Here is how it expands. A, accounts, create your own accounts. G, global groups, put user accounts into global groups. DL, domain local groups, put global groups into domain local groups. P, permission, assign permissions such as deny or apply on the domain local group. Acronym that stands for a strategy you can use is AGUDLP or AULP. Here is how it expands. A, accounts, create your user accounts. G, global accounts, put user accounts into global groups. U, universal groups, put the global groups into universal groups. DL, domain local groups, put universal groups into domain local groups. P, permissions, place permissions on the local group. Creating a group. To create a new group, Open the Active Directory Users and Computers snap-in. Click the OU where the group is going to reside. Right-click and choose New and then Group. After you create the group, just click the Members tab, choose add the users you want to reside in the group, and that's all there is to it. Filtering and advanced Active Directory features. The Active Directory Users and Computers tool has a couple of other features that come in quite handy. When you are managing many objects, you can choose the Filter Options dialog box by clicking the View menu in the MMC and choosing Filter Options. You will see a dialog box similar to the one shown in Figure 5.6. Here you can choose to filter objects by their specific types within the display. For example, if you are an administrator who works primarily with user accounts and groups, you can select those specific items by placing check marks in the list. In addition, you can create more complex filters by choosing Create Custom. Doing so provides you with an interface that looks similar to that of the Find command. Another option in the Active Directory Users and Computers tools is to view advanced options. You can enable the advanced options by choosing advanced features in the View menu. This adds some top-level folders to the list under the name of the domain. Let's take a look at a couple of new top-level folders. The system folder shown in Figure 5.7 provides additional features that you can configure to work with Active Directory. You can configure settings for the distributed file system, DFS, IP security, IPsec policies, the file replication service, FRS, and more. In addition to the system folder, you will see the lost and found folder. This folder contains any files that may not have been replicated properly between domain controllers. You can check this folder periodically for any files so you can decide whether you need to move them or copy them to other locations. As you can see, managing Active Directory objects is a simple task. The Active Directory Users and Computers tool allows you to configure several objects. Let's move on to look at one more common administrative function, moving objects. Moving, renaming, and deleting Active Directory objects. One of the extremely useful features of the Active Directory Users and Computers tools is its ability to move users and resources easily. Exercise 5.8 walks you through the process of moving Active Directory objects. In this exercise, you'll make several changes to the organization of the Active Directory objects. To complete this exercise, you must first have completed exercise 5.5. Exercise 5.8, moving Active Directory objects. 1, click the Windows key on the keyboard and choose Administrative Tools. 2, open the Active Directory Users and Computers tool and expand the name of the domain. 3, select the Sales OU under the New York OU. Right-click Workstation 1 and select Move. A dialog box appears. Select the RD OU and click OK to move the computer object to that container. Resetting an existing computer account. Every computer on the domain establishes a discrete channel of communication with the domain controller at logon time. The domain controller stores a randomly selected password different from the user password for authentication across the channel. The password is updated every 30 days. Sometimes the computer's password and the domain controller's password don't match and communication between the two machines fails. Without the ability to reset the computer account, you wouldn't be able to connect the machine to the domain. Fortunately, you can use the Active Directory Users and Computers tools to re-establish the connection. Exercise 5.9 shows you how to reset an existing computer account. You should have completed the previous exercise in this chapter before you begin this exercise. Exercise 5.9, resetting an existing computer account. 1, click the window on the keyboard and choose Administrative Tools. 2, Open the Active Directory Users and Computers tool and expand the name of the domain. 3. Click the RDOU and then right-click the Workstation 1 computer account. 4. Select Reset Account from the context menu. Click Yes to confirm your selection. Click OK at the success prompt. 5. When you reset the account, you break the connection between the computer and the domain. So after performing this exercise, reconnect the computer to the domain if you want it to continue working on the network. Publishing Active Directory objects. One of the main goals of Active Directory is to make resources easy to find. 2 of the most commonly used resources in a network environment are server file shares and printers. These are so common, in fact, that most organizations have dedicated file and print services. When it comes to managing these types of resources, Active Directory makes it easy to determine which files and printers are available to users. With that being said, take a look at how Active Directory manages to publish shared folders and printers. Making an Active Directory object available to users. An important aspect of managing Active Directory objects is that a system administrator can control which objects users can see. The act of making an Active Directory object available is known as publishing. The two main types of publishable objects are printer objects and shared folder objects. The general process of creating server shares and shared printers has remained unchanged from previous versions of Windows. You can create the various objects, a printer or a file system folder, and then enable them for sharing. To make these resources available via Active Directory, however, there's an additional step. You must publish the resources. Once an object has been published in Active Directory, clients will be able to use it. When you publish objects in Active Directory, you should know how the server name and the share name of the resource. When system administrators use Active Directory objects, they can change the resource to which the object points without having to reconfigure or even notify clients. For example, if you move a share from one server to another, all you need to do is to update the share folder's object properties to point to the new location. Active Directory clients still refer to their resource with the same path and name that they used before. Publishing printers. Printers can be published easily within Active Directory. This makes them available to users in your domain. Exercise 5.10 walks you through the steps you need to take to share and publish a printer object by having you create and share a printer. To complete the printer installation, you need access to the Windows Server 2012 R2 installation media via hard disk, a network share, or the CD-ROM drive. Exercise 5.10, creating and publishing a printer. Click the Windows key on the keyboard and choose Control Panel. 2. Click Devices and Printers, add a printer. This starts the Add Printer wizard, then click the next button. 3. In the Choose a Local or Network Printer page, select Add a Local Printer. This should automatically take you to the next page. If it does not, click Next. 4. On the Choose a Printer port, select Use an existing port from the drop-down list. Beside that option, make sure LPT1: printer port is selected. Click Next. 5. On the Install the Printer driver page, select Generic for the manufacturer. For the printer, highlight generic text only. Click Next. 6. On the Type a Printer name type, text printer, uncheck the Set as the default printer box and then click Next. 7. The installing printer screen appears after the system is finished. The printer sharing page appears. Make sure the box label "Share this printer" so that others on the network can find it and use it is selected, and accept the default share name of text printer 8. So that should be an I there. In the location setting, type building 203 And in the comment section, add the following comment. This is a text-only printer. Click Next. 9. On the You've successfully added text printer page, click Finish. 10. Next, you need to verify that the printer will be listed in Active Directory. Right-click the text printer icon and select Printer Properties. 11. Select the Sharing tab and make sure that the list in the directory box is checked. Note that you can also add additional printer drivers for other operating systems using this tab. Click OK to accept the settings. Note that when you create and share a printer this way, an Active Directory printer object is not displayed within the Active Directory users and computers tool. The printer is actually associated with the computer object to which it is connected. Publishing shared folders. Now that you've created and published a printer, you'll see how the same thing can be done to shared folders. Exercise 5.11 walks you through the steps required to create a folder, share it, and then publish in an Active Directory. This exercise assumes you're using the C partition. However, you may want to change this based on your server configuration. Exercise 5.11, creating and publishing a shared folder. Create a new folder in the root directory of your C partition and name it Test Share. To do this, click the File Explorer link on the toolbar. 2. Right-click Test Share Folder. Choose Share with Specific People. 3. In the File Sharing dialog box, enter the names of users with whom you want to share this folder. In the upper box, enter everyone and then click Add. Note that everyone appears in the lower box. Click in the permission level column next to everyone and choose Read Write from the pop-up menu, then click Share. You'll see a message that your folder has been shared. Click Done. Click the Windows key on the keyboard and choose Administrative Tools. Open Active Directory Users and Computers tool. Expand the current domain. Right-click RDOU, select New and Shared Folder. In the New Object Shared Folder dialog box, type Shared Folder Test for the name of the folder, then type the UNC path to the share. For example, //server1 /test share. Click OK to create the share. Once you have created and published the shared folder objects, clients can use the My Network Places icon to find it. The shared folder object will be organized based on the OU in which you created it. When you use publication, you can see how this makes it easy to manage shared folders. So I'm going to leave it here today for this video. If you like listening, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you.